Hello everyone and welcome! In today's video, I'm going to be designing, 3D printing, and painting some custom racetrack accessories, including some barriers and trash receptacles. While this might not seem like the most exciting topic for a video, especially when just last week we were getting that awesome RC Supra up and running, I actually had a lot of fun putting these items together as well as making this video, so stick around. Or not, I mean, you can do whatever you want. These models are going to make a great addition to my track, as well as anyone else who wants to print them for themselves, as all the files will be posted on a Patreon. Some racing barriers have been requested in the past by members, so hopefully you'll all enjoy these. Also, I really want to shout out the RC Supremacy channel here on YouTube. Brad is putting together an awesome micro drift track that's far beyond your average foam mat and cone setup. Wait a minute. Hey, who wrote this script? He's going all out with the detail, and some items that I've designed will be making their way into that build, which is super cool, and I'm very excited to see the progression. Check out that series if you haven't already, and show him some love. I'll be sure to put the link below in the description. I'll be quickly showcasing the entire process from the design to the finished product. While these videos are in no way intended to be a step-by-step tutorial, I do hope to provide you all with a little inspiration and maybe some ideas for your own projects or designs. If nothing else, you get to listen to my buttery voice and watch me make things, so that should be worth the price of admission alone, right? So with all that said, let's dive right in. First object on the list is a concrete barrier, or jersey barrier as I believe this design is often called. Using Autodesk Fusion 360, I loaded up an image with dimensions that I found online as a canvas, and used that to ensure that the shape and size is correct. After extruding that initial sketch, it's pretty much complete. I just added a few little things here and there to give it a little more detail. I scaled this barrier, as well as all the other objects that I'll be modeling in this video, to be right around 124.5 scale, since I've got both 124th and 125th scale vehicles. Not really a big deal, but I do like to try to get the dimensions as accurate as possible and make it look proportional to my smaller scale cars. Of course, the great thing about 3D printing is that you can scale the model to be any size that you need. With that model complete, I made a different barrier design that could be connected together with pins. I believe these barriers are usually made of plastic and filled with water. They're a more complex shape, but still a pretty simple design. One thing that I kept in mind is that I wanted to make sure that the connection points would allow for at least a 90-degree angle to be made so that they could be used for tight corners. Not sure how watertight a FDM printed barrier would be, but I thought about making barriers that could actually be filled with water just like the real ones. Could be a fun little project, but let me know what you all think. I designed some 3D printed pins that can be used to connect each barrier piece. I also wanted to make sure that the holes were large enough so that stronger M3 hardware could be used as well. I think this barrier turned out looking very cool, and I can't wait to print out a ton of these to use to make some tracks. Switching gears here a little, I began working on an outdoor trash can. There are tons of different designs that I could have chosen to base mine off of, but this one here to the right is what I ended up with. Seemed like a simple design, and what kid doesn't enjoy pulling off those little stones on the base? I got the side profile sketched, which I duplicated and rotated 90 degrees, then extruded both sketches and used a Boolean intersect to get the shape that I needed. I then used the shell tool and cut some openings on the top. Just like the real thing, I made the top removable. I figured it might make printing a little easier to do it in two pieces. Not wanting to skimp on the details, I added some slots on the side that you would use to help remove the top. And here we have the finished result. That little trash can though just wasn't enough, so I made a larger dumpster as well. Again, a pretty simple shape and design overall. With this design, a 1.5mm rod will be necessary to secure the doors. While it would be nice to have the dumpster be 100% 3D printable, I wanted the doors to be functional, and a steel rod seemed like the best way to allow for this. The finished dumpster looks about as nice as a dumpster can be. Not sure about anyone else, but I love to have one of these printed in a fireproof material and put a candle or two inside. Would make a great passive-aggressive centerpiece at the dinner table. With the designs complete, it's time to 3D print each of the items. For the smaller trash can, I printed that on an SLA printer. Everything else was printed using PLA filament on a FDM printer. After several hours of printing, here's the result. Everything turned out looking nice, so I began the post-print finishing work by removing all the support structure as well as doing some sanding. Now it's time for the fun part, painting. I started by applying some primer to a few pieces, then I began applying the paint. For the plastic barriers, I used white and red paint. For the trash can, I used a textured paint for the base and a sort of tan color for the top. I know the rock texture isn't really to scale, but I still think it looks pretty cool. Next was the concrete barrier. I tried my best to make it look like concrete using the paint that I had on hand, which turned out looking pretty nice overall. I sprayed black, brown, dark green, and light green onto the dumpster to try to give it a dirty, used look. For just using some Rust-Oleum rattle cans, I think they turned out looking pretty nice. Here's a look at everything after being painted. The barriers were looking great, but the dumpster and trash can needed some final assembly. As I said earlier, a 1.5mm steel rod is needed to secure the doors to the dumpster. I simply cut the rod to the correct length and glued it in place. Finally, to add a little more detail, I watered down some black acrylic paint and used it as a wash on some areas. While I had the black paint out, I also painted the inside of the trash can and installed the top piece. Finally, I connected the plastic barriers with the 3D printed pins. They look great connected together, and I can't wait to put them to use. Everything turned out looking awesome. Like I said at the beginning, this was a really fun little project and a nice break from some of the RC stuff. There's lots more little accessories and items like these in the works, so stay tuned for more. These items will probably be making their way onto our store page. We'll probably make a small batch of them and see how well they sell. If you're interested in ordering some, feel free to send us a message. The STL files can be found on our Patreon page. I'll be sure to include the link below in the description. But that's going to be all for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.